Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 216. And this month is actually Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. But we're not really gonna talk about that today. What we're gonna talk about some hot coffee. What we're gonna talk about is this TikTok video that I seen right before I hopped on my podcast. And the lady was talking about how she refuses to raise she refuses to be another example of what she used to be for her sons. And so she was saying that like she couldn't tell me nothing, nothing. Like nobody could tell me nothing. I was never wrong. All this toxic traits, right? And it stems from this video that she saw that this lady that this lady was given a rose or some sort of Valentine's Day gift from somebody that she's dating, right? Um, and so she's giving away the shit to other people. And people on TikTok were saying like, oh well, she's just trying to spread the love or this and this and that. She's like, no, well, like what she did was fucked up. Like what she did, like that's abusive, that's toxic, and it's true, it is. And she goes on to explain. She's like, I'm a boy mom, like the one thing I'm gonna do is I'm always hold myself accountable, And I think a lot of people get that misconstrued. It's like because as men, um, once you tell us that you don't want nothing to do with us, or we see you moving in a different way, we automatically just remove ourselves. We don't fight. We don't do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, what's the point? We may or may not pick up the phone, but the conversations we have is gonna be really, really short. Conversations we have is gonna be conversations that you don't want to have, is because it's nothing to remember. And it's true. Because once you show us that you don't want us, why be around? It's like when somebody tells you that they don't trust you, but yet they're still there. They're still talking to you. They're still doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, if you don't trust somebody, then why are you still trying to intertwine yourself in their life? If you don't want to spend time with with an individual, then why are you still involved in their life? Why are you still texting them? Why are you still calling? And it's like it's tiresome, because it's like, as men, we look at your actions, and if your words don't match up with your actions, we kind of just leave it alone. We don't sit there and play games. We don't sit there and like wonder what it was or what it is, because it's like no, your actions are what it was, man. It's like this is what you believed in. This is how you conduct yourself. So it's cool. Like, it's not really cool, but it's cool because we see who you are. We're not gonna sit there and be like, oh yeah, like, and make excuses and do no. We're not doing that. Doesn't make any sense for us to do that. And I think a lot of women will sit there and play victim and not realize like, oh, like if you were just honest with us from the jump, instead of giving us mixed signals, because mixed signals, that shit is real. Because guys will say that, because I've been in situations like that where the girl would say one thing, but literally contradict herself with her behavior. And we're like, okay, you don't want X, Y, and Z, but yet you're doing this with me. It's like how the woman always says, well, I don't want a relationship, but they're not fucking you, consistently. Or they're texting you all kinds of shit or doing X, Y, and Z consistently. And I'm like, you said you didn't want a relationship. You said you didn't want X, Y, and Z. You definitely said that you didn't want to have sex, but you ended up initiating, all of it. And like, what's really strange is when they try to blame you, and you're like, but what did I do? Like, what? How is this my fault? Because it takes two people to do everything that that I just mentioned, right? And with women like that, it's like it's best just to leave them alone because you're just wasting your time. You're wasting your time because they don't know what they want. They're unclear what they want, and the longer you stay around in a situation like that, like the more difficult it is for you to to break away from it. And I was talking to a couple of my homegirls, and a couple of my homegirls were saying, "Well, I would say this," and boom, 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 like that. Like at that particular point, there's no point. There's no point for you to express how you feel because they know, you know, like they know how you feel, and it's it's you know, it's imperative that even though you want to say something, and even though you feel like it's justified, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not justified. Sometimes it's like it's better just to leave things where they're at because you're gonna create an issue or a problem when there is no issue or a problem, and it's like, why? Why argue? Why argue with somebody who doesn't want what you want? Why argue with somebody who just doesn't see the situation for what it really is? Why argue with somebody who just doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand that how their actions affected you? And and as I get older, I realize it's like, yeah, like it's just not worth it. You know, it's not worth it keeping friends around or keeping women around like that. Uh, and what's crazy to me is that women will sit there and play the victim in a situation that they created, and it's like, why? Why are you doing this? Because it's like you know exactly what it was. Whether you caught feelings or whatever it is like the point is like you knew exactly what the situation was, right? And it goes back to that video, man, like of that boy mom saying, "I hold myself accountable," because a lot of women can't be told shit, a lot of women don't want to be told that like what they're doing is fucking toxic, you know, like what they're doing is just it's bullshit, you know. But yet they want to sit here and blame us men, you know, for not feeding into the bullshit, not feeding into X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, what do you want us to do? You know, you say you don't want us, you say X, Y, and Z, and everything, but it's like when you look at the whole situation, it's like you don't want us for because of what we want, but you want us around for that connection, even though it's a falsehood. You know, like you try to keep us interested, just enough so we can stick around, you know. And it's like when we get distant and like believe me, y'all feel it, you know. Or it's like I hate when people ask you the obvious. It's like, you know, like what do you think I should do? And I'm like, oh well, I don't know. It's not my life. It's like, you know, it's like I had this one girl that I used to be friends with, really good friends with. Like she would always complain about her job, always complain about her job and how she wanted something new and this and that and yada yada yada. And so she went off and I think she's gonna become a cop or something. And so I think the first time she had she had she had done the she had done the written no she had done the it was a written test first, I think, and then after that they do a physical. And I think for the physical part of the test, she didn't make it. Like she was late to the actual site. I'm like, how can you be late? You know. So, and then she had to wait a couple months and then sign up again. And this time she didn't even bother going. I'm like, okay, there's no point. She's like, what? He's like, don't ever talk to me about your goals because it's like twice, you know, you signed up for you signed up to be, a part of the police department, and twice you didn't make it. And it wasn't because you wasn't able to, it's because you didn't care. And I ran into her about a year later, and she's still working the same job that she hates. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured that because, women like you, like they just love to talk about what they're gonna do, not what they're doing, or not what they got going on, what they're gonna do. And I remember, I think she had a few kids, and she would always say, "Well, I'm gonna wait till my kids graduate high school." And I'm like, but that's like in 8, 9 years. Why would you wait that long? And then she was talking about her situation, this and this and that. I'm like, there's people that we know who have more kids than you, more responsibilities than you, who are actually going after what they want. What's your excuse? And they have a worse support system than you have. So what's your excuse? You don't have an excuse. You just don't want to do it. You love talking about it, but that's it. Like you don't want to be held accountable. And like when I see videos of that mom saying that TikTok mom saying, "Oh well, like nobody could tell me nothing. I was never wrong. This and this and that." Like it's true because every single guy has been in this situation, whether it's a platonic friendship, whether it's a situationship, whether it's a girlfriend or a boyfriend situation, situation with or without the labels. It's like every man has been in a situation where you're like, this is not worth my time. Like, this is not worth my time because you're clearly showing me that you don't want anything to better yourself. You just want people to fucking talk about you and what you're doing. That's all you want. And it's pathetic, it's sad, and when you hold people accountable like that, and then they want to be like, well, how come you doing X, Y, and Z? Because, like, obviously to you it doesn't matter. Because if it did matter, you would put in the work to get it done. It's like, I remember somebody telling me something like, oh, like they asked me like, oh, X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, well, what are you running from? They're like, what? I was like, yeah, like you're running from something. You're trying to distract yourself from something. So what exactly are you running from? Because nobody is trying to distract themselves that much. I get it. Life is expensive. Everything is expensive. Hell, inflation is a motherfucker. Like, but when you do certain things, it's like my spidey senses go off, and I'm like, yeah, no. Like, you're running from something. Like, there's something going on. It's like I had this girl that I know, that I work with. I've known her for a long time. I've known her since we was in our 20s. And she's 2-3 years older than me. And back in the day, she was the type of girl that would just she would hop from dude to dude. Religiously. And she messed over a lot of people. And then some of the dudes that she did shit with is like, yeah. So one day at lunch, we was talking about it outside, and I said, and she said, well, I don't know why I did what I did. Like, no, I was like, no, you know what you did. You know why you did it. It's because you was looking for something that you couldn't find. And whether it was your screwed up family history or whatever issues you had, is that you was looking for something to repair that inner child, and like it doesn't work. Like you can't fix your inner child, by doing the shit you was doing. or just because a guy has a couple red flags, and like you don't like you like you don't just go off after run away after the first one. And it's like, I'm not saying that all men are like that, because there is things that all men do that we're like, yeah, okay, we got to work on this, bro. Because even me myself, it's like I'm still looking for therapy. I'm still trying to figure out this whole therapist thing, and like how to navigate therapy, because I lost my brother a year ago. But it's like, even when even in my relationships, it's like I was like, yeah, I have to do something, because it's like what I'm doing isn't working. Like my coping mechanisms were, when it came down to it, I didn't trust anybody. And it wasn't about, how good they looked, or, how good they sucked my dick, or whatever it was. It's like I didn't trust any woman when it came down to my emotions, because of my fractured, complicated, traumatic childhood. I didn't care how good the sex was. It didn't matter to me. When it came time down to being vulnerable with somebody, what I realized, my attachment style is actually avoidant and somewhat disorganized. I mean, I'm organized, but I'm also disorganized, meaning because I'm always thinking 2-3 steps ahead, and a lot of it has to stem from my upbringing, how my dad was. It's like, everything I did, like that was never good enough, and it's like, yo, what the fuck, I mean, and I'm talking everything. I remember when I came home from college my freshman year, and I got like a 3.2. Pretty good, pretty decent grade point average, right? And he took a look at my grades. He's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Or it's like, I remember once when I was in high school, I think I was a freshman. Every week, or not every week, but like, I think like my dad would pick me up from school on Fridays, and I would go to tutoring sessions. And then I think this one particular day, we had gone to Baskin Robbins, and I said, "Hey, pops, can we, you know?" And I was trying to make it like a weekly thing. I was like, "Pops, can we go to Baskin Robbins, man? Every Friday." Now, that was me asking, like, I want to spend quality time with you, so let's do that, And we never did, And it's like, I just look at that, I'm like, okay. And then I look at my parents' marriage, their relationship, how chaotic and toxic that shit was, and what it came down to is a whole lot of shit, bro. And it's like, there's a lot of shit, that I was told, that I probably should go to therapy for, man. It's like, a lot of psychological damage. And I think a lot of people, instead of you handling your shit and being an adult about it and understanding that it's okay, a lot of people won't do that, Like, they'll sit there and they'll cast judgment, they'll do X, Y, and Z, but in reality, it's not about you and how you're feeling and what you feel. I'm not saying that it's not important, because it is important, but what I'm saying is that a lot of the times you don't understand the trauma that you're dealing with until years later. Until even when my most recent relationship, there were times where I wanted to be vulnerable. There were times when I wanted to cry out and fucking scream and do X, Y, and Z, and it's like, but I didn't want to be a burden to people. You know, I didn't want to trauma bond with my girl. I didn't want to do any of that shit because to me that like I felt that I was weak. You know, all my life I was told boys don't cry. You know, or the famous saying that I heard growing up, like if you want to cry, give me something to cry about. Right there, you just invalidated somebody's emotions. You know, and when you hear that, and when you get whoopings because you don't understand your homework, or you have trouble grasping a certain concept, or they get frustrated with you. I want to say they, me, my dad, and they beat you for not understanding your homework. How is a nigga supposed to say that? Yeah. How is a nigga supposed to be like, oh yeah, by the way, X, Y, and Z happened to me. I don't know how to say that. And it's frustrating for me too. Because I don't I don't know how to say that without becoming visibly vi- visibly emotional about it. Because the way I look at it, no kid deserves that shit. Yeah. No kid deserves to be emotionally, not emotionally not having any emotions validated. No kid deserves any of that shit happen to him. But here we are. You know, it's to me, you know, it's sad, it's pathetic. Um, if I could go back and talk to my 10-year-old self, my 12-year-old self, my 13-year-old self at 36, I would tell that kid, yo, what you've been through is bullshit. But you know what? You don't have to be that way. No, you're not too much. You know? And if I could tell this individual, if I could go back in time, it's like, you don't know this, man, but in about 20 years or so, you're going to meet this girl who's going to show you, you know, that it's okay. You know? And there's going to be some traumas and triggers that she's been through. And y'all going to help each other get through it. But at the same time, in the process of you doing that, she may not break your heart. But she's going to show you what true love is. She's going to show you how to not only love somebody else fully, but how to love yourself too. And a lot of people never experience that, man. And I'm glad that I did. Keyword, did. And because in some situations, you just have to walk away from it, no matter what it is. Like no matter how perfect the situation is, it's like there's only so much you can do because trust goes a long way. And when the trust isn't there, there's no point for you to be there. And it's not a slight on anybody or whatever it is, because sometimes people just grow apart, and that's the nature of it. It's like don't sit there and blame yourself and do X, Y, and Z, and like don't sit there and try to come up with reasons as to why it didn't work out. Like it just didn't work out, and it's okay. And me going forward in my next relationship, I think it's imperative that not only I take the lessons that I was learned in this situation, but apply them to other things, and become emotionally more available, more vulnerable. Because I think everybody comes into your life for three things: seasons, reasons, and lifetimes. That lifetime is a tricky one, man, because sometimes we end up creating lifetime bonds with seasonal people. Those seasonal people came into our life for a reason, to teach us something, whatever it is, and then you move forward. You're not supposed to stay stuck in a situation where it's not working. And while it sucks that I had to walk away from this, I had to do it because I had to show myself that I love myself. I can't be in a situation with somebody else who not necessarily doesn't love me, but doesn't love me the way that I need to be loved. And even though I love her, it's not enough. Not for me. And I think that's a painful situation to be in when you know that you love somebody, but you know what they can't give you, or the love that they give you is you need something else. And just because you love somebody doesn't mean that that's enough. Because if love was enough, look at the situations around you. Nobody would get divorced. Nobody would break up in relationships. Nobody would do X, Y, and Z. Because they say that love is enough, and it's not. All right, y'all, this is 27 minutes of your life that you won't get back. Hope you're keeping it 4-piece. Private player, positive pushing. I'll see y'all next week. Love y'all. Ghosts, and like I always say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. Peace. All right, y'all.